Thank you for joining us today. My name is Jessica Reynolds, and I am the Director of the Office of Downtown Development at the Georgia Department of Community Affairs. And with me, I have my colleague, Tara Bradshaw, who is our Economic Development Specialist. Say hi, Tara.
Hello, everyone.
We are excited to be bringing you guys this webinar. So traditionally, our office works with a lot of local Main Street programs, about 118 across the state. And we were able to do a webinar recently on resources for small businesses, Main Street programs, and local governments. And we really wanted to be able to condense that and bring this context of small business impact specifically to you as a small business owner and to those who are being directly affected by COVID-19 right now. So we cut out all the extra stuff and we're just giving you the goodies and the most important information that you need to know as of right now. The other thing to keep in mind is that this information is relevant and key as of today, Wednesday, March 25th. So Tara, will back me up on this, but things are changing very, very quickly. And, sometimes not just hour to hour, but minute to minute. So the information and resources we're going to talk about today, that is what is available as of right now. But that doesn't mean that new things won't be coming down the pipeline and new things won't be evolving and made available at a later date. So anything else, Tara, you want to add to that?
No, I would just echo that there are, we had an original flood of stimulus that came through, and we'll talk a little bit about where that funding is going, but there is obviously a lot more that's coming with the stimulus package that was just passed. And so, yeah, I think that we'll have a lot more information in the days and weeks to come for sure. But this is a great starting point for our small businesses to focus on now.
Absolutely. Okay. So with that being said, we'll get started. So I think we can all agree right now that consumer confidence is down, and I don't need to to go into a long diatribe about what consumer confidence is for you guys as small business owners and operators. But I think we all understand the general correlation between when consumer confidence is up, then people are spending money, and when consumer confidence is down, then people aren't spending money. The reality is that the market really fluctuates based off of this consumer confidence, but consumer confidence is also about more than just where your next paycheck is coming from. It's also about the economic stability of not only our businesses but the community itself, the state as a whole, and then obviously the greater nation and the world. We're in definitely uncharted territory, and I would say anybody right now who's going to tell you that things will be resolved or fixed in a couple weeks, that may not be accurate. We are fortunate to be able to have a state perspective of this. And I will say that I was on a call yesterday, and there are people in, Southeast and Southwest Georgia, where business still remains almost, pretty much consistent and business as usual. Even, people are working at City Hall, even though they may have limited access to the public. But up where I am in the Carrollton, Georgia area, we do have a cluster and outbreak of cases. It is quite serious, and we are on shelter-in-place orders. I know where Tara is in Dublin, they're on a curfew, and so I would say that while this, webinar is geared towards any small business, wherever you are, keep in mind that, it's your consumer confidence is not just going to be impacted as like a state or as a country, but also by your region and just what's happening locally in your area. And so you have to kind of be cognizant of what's going on there. We had the pleasure of participating in another webinar last week, and we heard this quote, and I just thought it was worth sharing today. But the majority of businesses, retailers, restaurants, event producers, and providers, sports teams, and millions of others will lose perhaps 50% or more in sales between March and June 4th. So over a 4-month period of time, our small businesses, that you guys on the front lines, these mom and pop shops, could lose 50% or more of revenue coming in. And I would say that's definitely real, and real from what we're hearing from our local businesses. And we know and understand what that impact means for small businesses. It means when these shelter-in-place effects are in order, that means we get reduced foot traffic. People are seeing less money coming in. We know that you guys are having to furlough staff or do a reduction in staff, in certain situations, lay off staff. We've already seen that happening across the state and in our own communities. Obviously, with shelter-in-place mandates comes a reduction in store hours, meaning you can't just be open to the general public, or maybe you have to do just drive-through or pick up or to-go stuff. We know that's also going to impact shipping and receiving. And then, of course, that consumer confidence that we were talking about and that overall impact. Tara, do you want to talk a little bit about like the impact you've seen just in Dublin, where you're from, and the businesses that you've talked to?
Yeah, so in our community, we are currently under an emergency declaration. And so what we've seen over the last 2 weeks, and I dare say this is probably a trend in a lot of our small businesses, is exactly what you're saying. There's been a reduction in store hours. There's employees being sent home. And now with this official declaration, we are seeing businesses that are being told to close. So anything from salons to restaurants closing their dining areas. Retailers are being required to have their customers remain 6 feet apart. So that's playing into how many customers they can allow into the businesses at one time. But I think overall we're just seeing a drastic drop, obviously, in foot traffic and customers coming in the doors because of these shelter in place. So yeah, it's the impact of this is far-reaching. To any of our small business owners listening, you are not alone in this, and I think that all that we can do now is focus on what those resources are out there to help you get through this, and then what your recovery looks like in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things you'll see today from us, like, we're not going to be talking about like creative ways to engage with your customers or to bring people in or to encourage people to shop. Honestly, we want to be more realistic than that and know that that is just going to be impeded and impacted for you. And we want to focus just on resources. So again, we've got 2 sections. The first one is going to actually talk about resources for your employees if you've had to furlough employees, lay off employees, or even a reduction in hours. And then the second section is going to focus on the actual resources available to the small businesses themselves. So with that being said, let's talk about employee impact. Terry, you want to take that?
Yeah, so one of the biggest impacts are, of course, our employees. As a small business owner, you are you're having to cut the hours of your employees or send them home temporarily if you're having to suspend your business operations. So one of the things there's 2 things that can happen. Last week, the Georgia Department of Labor announced under Governor Kemp's direction that they will be temporarily suspending an in-person rule in order to apply for unemployment benefits, which is fantastic. That means that you as an employer and your employees can access unemployment benefits strictly online. So this is a fantastic resource for you. There's a link there you can follow directly to the announcement, and it has lots of information on how to get that process started. From an employer standpoint, you do have a responsibility in this as a small business owner. You will be required to go and file partial unemployment insurance claims on behalf of your employees. So this gets the process started for your employees. It also makes the benefit payments come a little bit quicker if you get this process started. And I will say that there are some consequences if you as an employer do not go ahead and file this partial claim. So be sure to check out that website and get all of that information and get that started. As an employer, in order to get that started, you will need all of your employees' information, their Social Security, their contact information, any of their tax withholding. So if they want to have federal or state taxes withheld from their unemployment benefits. You'll need to know that. Maybe have that conversation with them as you're getting this process started. On the flip side, if you're an employee of a small business that you've seen a reduction in hours, and I'd like to just clear that this is not necessarily that you've been completely laid off, although we are seeing many employees that have been laid off temporarily. But this is also a reduction in hours. Employees qualify for these benefits if you've seen your work time go down. So as an employee, you'll go to the Department of Labor website, and once your employer has started the partial claim, you can go on and file the unemployment insurance claim to start receiving those weekly benefits. I will say this system is flooded, of course, right now. So the sooner you can get this done, the better for you. I think that it'll start getting start offering some relief to you quickly as an employee. So if you are an employee filing, you will need your social security number, your bank information, as well as your work history the last 2 years.
Yeah, and I think Tara hit on a really important point there, that I think traditionally we think of like unemployment insurance as people who have completely lost their jobs. But again, this is available to those who have had a reduction in hours, which I think is, super, super important to kind of make note of, because again, that is a loss of income. The other thing I think that people think of when they think of unemployment insurance is that I have to go business to business, door to door, and have people sign a sheet of paper saying that I'm looking for jobs. Again, that has been, that restriction has been eased. So you will not, because they understand that most people are in some kind of shelter in place or some kind of restricted mobility situation. So you as the employee filing to receive these benefits, you do, realistically, you're not going to have to go door to door, looking and getting people to sign off on documentation for you. From what I've seen, if you've completely lost your job and you are filing for unemployment insurance, you need to be able to show that you are posting your resume online somewhere for someone to see. So think about all those Monster.com and, other places that you can just post, your job resume. But, obviously the threshold has been lowered substantially because so many people are out of work right now. So that's just another thing to keep in mind, that unfortunately you are not alone in this, and there's a lot of other people going through this at the exact same time, at the exact same moment. So again, the state and federal restrictions have been loosened in order to make these funds more accessible to those who are being impacted right now. All right, we're going to move into, and I will say too that this information will be available. We will upload it to our Georgia Main Street YouTube channel. Please feel free to share it. And again, you can go to just the Department of Labor, Georgia's website, Department of Labor, but we'll also include a PDF with clickable links if you want to share this with your employees or with other small businesses, so that people can just click and go. So talking about small businesses, from what kind of resources and stuff are available. The Department of Community Affairs has a couple resources available if you currently have a loan secured through one of our financial programs. So I'm speaking specifically now to small businesses in our Main Street communities that are accessing two different types of funds. So if you are a borrower on the Downtown Development Revolving Loan Fund, again, I'm not going to go into what this fund is. You will know if you are a borrower and if you are accessing this money right now. So if you are a borrower on the DDRLF program, or if you are a lender that is securing funds from the SSBCI, which is State Small Business Credit Initiative. So if you have borrowed money from a traditional financial institution and it has been guaranteed through SSBCI, again, you will know if this applies to you. Then you have a couple options available to you. One is that if you get into financial hardship, you are able to ask for a one-time loan deferral of payments up to 90 days, up to 3 months, or you can also choose to do interest-only payments up to 90 days, 3 months. Again, that is something that our agency is doing to be able to lessen that hardship on small businesses. Again, these requests and approvals will be made case by case. And I have contact information here on the screen for each of those programs if you feel like you have money secured through DDRLF or SSBCI, and this would be applicable to you. A couple things that I would note and consider is that before you do any of these things or take advantage of any of these programs that we're going to talk about today, you're going to need to first sit down and have that realistic conversation with yourself and your business partners and your family, whoever's involved in the business, and say, this is where we're at right now. This is where we're at. This is how much we have. This is how long we can keep going at this. This is our do or die moment. Because for some of these things where people are offering loan deferrals or interest only payments or things like that, they're offering it as a one-time kind of deal. So you get one chance at this. So you want to make sure that if you're going to do this and your 90 days is going to start, that it's going to start at the moment that matters the most to you. So, you may be okay right now, but you may know that as of May, I'm not going to be okay. And that's when I would need to start, kind of, ratcheting down and stuff like that. So again, those are just some serious conversations that you're going to have with yourself. I will also say that for a lot of people who have taken advantage of the Downtown Development Revolving Loan Fund, you might have also capitalized some of that with the Georgia Cities Foundation loan, because these are two sister programs that go hand in hand. GCF is doing a similar thing. So if you decide to do the deferment of payments for DDRLF, or if you decide to do the interest only payments for the DDRLF program and you have a GCF loan, they are willing to do the same thing. But again, each will be considered on a case-by-case basis. And again, you're going to have to reach out to Georgia Cities Foundation, because while these programs are all underwritten by one agency and they all work together in unison, they are managed separately. So one is managed by Georgia Cities Foundation by Georgia Municipal Association staff, and then the DDRLF program is managed internally at the Georgia Department of Community Affairs. But again, if you have questions, we have our contact information at the end, and also your local Main Street program can help put you in touch with the person you need to be in touch with. Tara, anything else you want to add kind of about, knowing where you're at as a business before taking advantage of any of this?
Yeah, I think it's incredibly important for you as a small business to use this time to reassess where you are, identify the problems maybe that you're going to have in cash flow or that you most likely are currently having, and start formulating ways to fill those gaps. This is a great resource. We're going to talk about some more. Yeah, I think that we've got to look, if we're going to survive through this as a small business, we've got to look inward and know exactly, what our break-even points are, know every cost about your business. So this is a great time to reassess and see if you need to reach out to, use these resources now.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right, so the next program is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, and Tara's been very hands-on with this. So Tara, I'm going to let you take this one.
So there's currently a program available through the Small Business Administration. These funds are available right now, and it came down through a stimulus that was signed a couple of weeks ago on the federal level. So there's been about $50 billion set aside for the Small Business Administration, and they have made it where small businesses that are suffering a substantial economic injury because of the coronavirus pandemic able to apply for this loan. So we're going to talk a little bit about what you're going to need to do and what that looks like for you. So one of the things that needed to happen is that we needed to have a disaster declaration passed for our area. We're pleased to report that has been done. So every small business in the state of Georgia is eligible for this low interest federal disaster loan. The deadline to apply for this loan will be December 18th of this year. And what you'll do is apply directly online through the SBA. Again, this link will be live in our downloadable PDF if you want to go there, or you can type this into your search bar. So one of the interesting things about this is in a typical disaster like a hurricane, SBA would go in and set up a disaster recovery center. So this is a little bit different dealing with the coronavirus. They are not going to set up physical locations, so the entire application process will be online. The great news is that the University of Georgia Small Business Development Center, or the SBDC, has 17 offices across the state of Georgia, and they are offering consulting services at no charge to small business owners to help them through this application process. There is quite a bit of financial documentation that will have to be prepared, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. And so SBDC is offering consulting at every office across their state. That can be virtual, of course, and all you need to do is reach out directly to them. If you'll search UGA SBDC, that'll link you up to your regional office. So some of the things, if a business is looking at utilizing this fund, you will have to show that you've experienced a severe financial impact. So some of the documents, this is a sort of a limited list. Again, I encourage you to go and look at the full list on the SBA website of what you'll need and talk to your SBDC reps. So some of the things you'll need, of course, are 3 years tax returns and your personal financial statement. And you'll also need to show, if you do have business interruption insurance, you'll have to show if you have filed a claim or received any payment through that insurance. They'll have some proof documents there for you to fill out. You're also going to have to share your current balance sheet, full schedule of liabilities, and your profit and loss statement. So they want to see, in order to show that you have experienced that financial impact, they're going to want to see your income and expenses from January 31st of this year to the present day that you apply. So let's say you apply in a couple of weeks. You're going to pull your P&L from January 31st of 2020 through that day that you apply. Likewise, they're also going to want to see your P&L for the same time period in 2019. And what this will do, of course, is show them that your receipts are down and that you have experienced the financial impact because of the coronavirus. So let's talk a little bit about the terms for the SBA loan. So the great news is this loan can be used to help you with your fixed costs, payroll, any accounts payable or outstanding bills that you have. The interest is low for small businesses. It's 3.75%. The caveat here is that you qualify for this loan if you do not have credit available elsewhere. There are some forms and some more information on their website about how to prove that. But if you do not have credit available elsewhere, an open line of credit or anything like that, then you are eligible for this loan at 3.75%. Another great thing is that this loan is available for nonprofits. We have many nonprofits that across this country that are being affected by this as well. So they're offering a 2.75% term or rate for nonprofits. The terms are determined on a case-by-case situation. We have seen the maximum term on this can be 30 years. So, you're looking at, very low interest rate, very long terms to help you get cash injected back into your business. There's also no limit on the number of loans available, and each business is eligible to apply for up to $2 million. Again, every business, as you apply, the creditability of your business will be evaluated by an SBA a lender, and they'll go through that entire loan process with you to get this going.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tara. So the next program we're going to talk about is the Facebook Small Business Grant Program. This is relatively new. I don't know if many people have heard about it, but Facebook is offering $100 million in cash grants and ad credits for up to 30,000 eligible small businesses in over 30 countries where they operate. They are still developing the program. If you look at the bottom of our screen, there is a link that you can sign up to, that they will email you directly once the terms and conditions and stuff have all been developed. But they have developed this fund to help your workforce keep going strong, to help you offset rent, for your small business, to provide you opportunities to connect with more consumers and customers, and to cover operational costs at this time. So again, this is another resource that's out there that not everybody may be aware of. So I think it's one of those things that doesn't hurt to sign up and see, what comes out once the information is made available. But again, you can either look up Facebook, Boost Grants, or you can just go to that link at the bottom of our page and sign up to receive more information. But again, another great resource that's out there that some of your fellow small businesses may not be aware of. Okay. I would say one of the things that we've been doing as a team over the past week and a half, 2 weeks, as we really have been diving into this, is that we've been talking to as many people as possible. So obviously, Tara has been in very close connection with SBDC, SBA. We've been reaching out to power companies, to all of our partners, National Development Council, obviously other partners within the state, looking at all our individual funding programs and see what we can do best. But Tara has some, we're going to talk about some actual tips from some bankers, and Synovus has been a great partner in a lot of our communities with small businesses, and just let Tara kind of walk us through what she's heard from our local banks, and also what they've shared with us as far as resources available and their recommendations for small businesses right now.
Yeah, so as a small business, the most important relationship you have right now is with your financial institution, your lenders, your creditors. We cannot stress enough how important it is for you to go ahead and get the conversation started with your financial institution, your personal banker, your lender, whoever that may be. And like Jessica said, we were reaching out to a lot of our contacts across the state. I received an email from one banker that said this, and I thought it was so great. The most important thing to remember is to keep an open line of communication with your banker, and do not put your head in the sand thinking the problem will go away. The sooner you have this conversation, the better, as there's more time to come up with a solution. So remember, we're all in this together. As a lender, your banker they've invested in you. They want to see you successful as much as you do. So it is incredibly important for you to go ahead and start having that conversation. We mentioned that, go ahead and start assessing your finances, see what you need to keep going, or, what you'll need if you've had to temporarily close. What are you going to need to reopen your doors when that time comes? So we've received lots of great information. Some of the things that I think that a banker can help our small businesses with are, we can look at a deferral of loan payments. Again, this is something you can approach your lender about. Some interesting things we learned: if you currently hold an SBA 7A loan through a traditional lender, SBA will allow that lender to grant you a 90-day deferral of payments without any prior approval. And all that is a phone call away, an email away. Reach out to your banker. Hey, I'm going to have problems meeting this payment over the next few months. What can we do to help me build some cash flow back into the business through some cost avoidance? Some other things to consider: if you have an in-house loan with a bank, they may also be willing to make some considerations. They could defer their payments. They could modify the loan to maybe you only cover the interest for the next 3 to 6 months. So especially if you're dealing with a local bank, which a lot of our small businesses do, there is some definite leeway in there for you to reassess where your payments are on your outstanding loans and maybe get you some relief on that side. Another option for you could be, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say one thing, Tara, that I learned yesterday when talking with a couple of different of the financial institutions is that obviously this conversation is a little bit easier had when you are working with your local bank. But if you have any kind of like loans through Chase or bigger, financial institutions where they're just not immediately accessible and you kind of have to wait and do phone calls and that sort of stuff. The thing that you have to keep in mind is that you have to say you are unable to make payments and you have to ask for help. They cannot infer that by what you're saying. You have to actually, say the words and say that you need help. And then those resources and things are opened up to you. But you need to make sure that we're not trying to be too delicate and polite about the situation. We need to be upfront, honest, and say, I need help. This is what I'm having trouble with. I can't do this, or I can't make this payment, or I will not be able to do this. Because again, these financial institutions, what I've learned from yesterday, especially like the larger ones, if you're doing stuff through Chase or USAA or some of these other organizations, you have to actually say that you need this help and assistance. They can't just offer it to you. You have to first ask for it. So just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, that is fantastic advice. Again, it just reiterates how important communication is, and reaching out during this time. I think that everyone from our big banks down to our small local banks are going to be willing to help you through this. Again, they've invested in you. It is in their best interest to make sure that you are successful in this. So one of the other options for you is looking at a line of credit, maybe a short-term line of credit that can help get you through this crisis. Anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000 limit could help you have enough cash to inject back into the business just to keep it going for right now. And again, those terms will be negotiable with whatever bank you go with on that, but that absolutely is a great tool that you probably should look into if you do not currently have access to a line of credit. So again, I'll just reiterate, communication is key in all of this. Like Jessica said, reach out, do not hesitate to say where you are. Use this time to assess what you're going to need over the next, 3, 4, all the way out to 6 months possibly, and get those conversations going.
Absolutely. And this is a time, that if you do have to shutter your doors right now, you can, use this time to take advantage of, keeping up with some deferred maintenance that maybe you've done on your property, do a deep clean. Again, we really want to emphasize, that it's not just right now about how do I get people in the door and how do I stay afloat at the moment. It's also about what does this look like long term for me financially. And if I do have to work with reduced staff, how can I limit my expenditures as much as possible so that I have as much working capital as I need to kind of reestablish myself in the future? I know that some of the businesses Tara and I both talked to have said, if this continues the way it is on the trajectory and the path it is right now, when I come out of this, it's basically like having to reopen your business from scratch, and starting from scratch as far as financially, especially for some restaurants and stuff, because food, it's not going to last. The nice thing with some retail and stuff like that is, if I have cards on a shelf, they're not going to expire. I don't have to worry about coasters or cards or art prints going bad, but food, yeah. And I'm not going to order more food if I don't know if I'm going to be allowed to be open. So again, it's not just talking about how do I make it this month. It's looking at it long term and planning for what that recovery process looks like. And then again, I'm sure that there's, like some of us, small businesses out there that may not have been as engaged on social media or may not have an online, bricks and click store kind of set up. In this downtime that we have where we're self-quarantined and really having to limit our exposure to others, this is an opportunity for us to even potentially learn business skills that we haven't had or work with other businesses that don't necessarily have to have, stores and locations open to see how they can help us either move our operation online, or learn a new skill, or take an online class or webinar. But again, an opportunity for us to learn and grow as a business throughout this process, and again, focusing on what that recovery looks like. Anything else you want to add, Tara, to that?
No, I think recovery is probably one of the most important focuses we can have right now. If you have closed the doors to your business temporarily, we all hope temporarily, right? So what will you need? What capital are you going to need to get those doors reopened when that time comes? And that's probably one of the most pressing questions you can assess right now as a small business is, what is it going to take for me to survive the next 3 months? And how much am I going to need to reopen? And, again, you said restaurants, a lot of our restaurants are closing during this time, which makes up a huge portion of our downtown businesses specifically. So yeah, what will you need in 3 to 6 months time to get open? And I think that's really probably the key to all of this.
Yeah, and it's also one of those questions that only you can answer, because we can talk about all the resources out there, but only you can determine what your make or break point is what dollar amount you actually need to stay in operation. We can't do that for you. So that's one of those, honest conversations that you have to have with yourself and your partners in your business to be able to say, okay, this is what it's going to take. This is what it's actually going to look like. So with that being said, we appreciate you guys being here. We appreciate y'all taking the time. Honestly, we're all in this together. We have 118 Main Street cities that we work with across the state of Georgia. I have never been more proud to be in the Main Street world. But if you are a small business in a downtown, you are not alone in this, and that is the power of our network. So make sure you guys are washing your hands and taking care of yourself first and foremost. It's kind of like being on a plane. You got to put the oxygen mask on yourself before you can help anybody else, right? So again, we all want to be able to help each other at this point, but we have to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves and our family and our family's needs first, and then figuring out how we can help each other. But let's stay in touch. So again, we have, a huge expansive network. If you are in a downtown, or if you don't know if your downtown has a Main Street program, we have an incredible website, georgiamainstreet.org. If you go to this link right here, our tiers, we've got a list of all the communities as well as their contact information, so you can find out who in your community to reach out to. We have a general email address. If you email us at that mainstreet@dca.ga.gov, it goes to my entire team that we work with every single day. And so we can make sure that the right person gets you, information quickly. We're on Facebook and Instagram. Again, we have our website, and we will continue to do webinars like this. We have a YouTube channel, which is accessible through our Georgia Main Street Program website. Again, you see our little like GAMAINST kind of like handle right there. Same thing for YouTube. So it's youtube.com/ and then that little handle right there. And you will find all our previously recorded webinars, the one we did last week. And as new information is made available to us, we will continue to do these and push these out to our Main Street directors and our communities. So thank you for being here with us today. We, encourage you guys to reach out, not just to us, but to each other, share ideas and information, stay safe, and we hope to talk to you soon.